Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending on where you're connecting from. Welcome to yet another exciting Citrix Ready webinar, where we showcase how Citrix and our partners like Secmaker here today have integrated to deliver valuable products and solutions to common problems faced by our customers. I'm Anil Kumar, your host today, and I'm part of Citrix Ready technical marketing team, leading the network ecosystem. And today we have Secmaker with us today, and they have a really exciting identity and access management product. And we'll see how they really help secure Citrix's experience. And to present that, along with me today, we have Ronnie Johnson from Secmaker. Hey, Ronnie, welcome to the webinar. Could you introduce a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah, hi Anil, and thank you. First of all, welcome you all, and I want to thank you to participate in this webinar. And my name is Ronnie Johansson, and I'm a solution architect at the company Secmaker. And we've been working with PKI solutions and integrations against Citrix for more than 10 years. So I'm looking forward to talk to you today.
Thanks, Ronnie. If you could move to the next slide, please. All right. So before I hand it over to Ronnie to kind of take you guys through Secmaker's NetID suite of products, I thought I'll introduce a little bit about Citrix Ready. So Citrix Ready is an technology partner program where we showcase and recommend third-party products, solutions, and services that demonstrate compatibility with Citrix. And what it means to the customers is they can quickly and easily find solutions which Citrix recommends. And all these products are available in Citrix Ready Marketplace. And if you'd like to visit our website and want to join our program, you have the links provided below. Please go over there and take a look. And without any further ado, let me hand it over to Ronnie. Just one housekeeping item before we start the webinar. If you have any questions during the session, please use the GoToMeeting control panel. Post your questions, and we'll take it up during the Q&A session at the end. All right. So Ronnie, once again, welcome to the webinar, and it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Anil. So we will see if we could get this rolling. Yeah, so the agenda for today and what we're going to talk about, we will have a slight introduction. And we will talk about why we need to leave the passwords behind, a product overview, and I will also show you some demos regarding manage and enroll certificates. Simple and secure login to Citrix with the certificates. A small introduction and a bit of Secmaker. We were established as our current form 2001, but we've been developing PKI-based smart card solutions since 1996. We are 30 employees based in Stockholm, Sweden, that provide products, solutions, and services to customers all over Europe. Secmaker has been working closely to Citrix as partners since 10 years back with smart card related integrations and also different PKI solutions. The weakness of passwords. There are massive amount of information and studies available regarding password security. A couple of weeks ago at my home, I was reading the Digital Guardian, and I found this article, interesting article about a survey that they have performed. I found it really interesting due to its results. I do believe it reflects the reality in a quite accurate way. It also points out an important reason why we can't trust passwords as the security methods to our organizations. So I choose today to share with you some statistics from this survey. It's a survey that they had for 1,000 people, and it's about their password security habits. And this is what they found out. 49.3% of respondents say they reuse passwords for multiple services. 10.8% answer that they only have one password and they reuse it everywhere. It's reused everywhere, one password. Think about that. Almost 50% reuse passwords and almost 11% use the same password everywhere. So if people reuse passwords or use the same passwords everywhere, do they then change them often? Passwords are rarely changed. 10.9% of respondents says they never change their passwords. 29.4% of respondents rarely or never change their passwords. Rarely or never change passwords. That's 29.4%. So we can't really trust passwords to be secure when almost 11% never change their password. 11%. Almost 30% rarely or never change their passwords. So the real problem when using one password everywhere that are rarely or never changed starts when it falls into the wrong hands. Passwords are the target today. So 2 in 5 people say that they had their password stolen, account hacked, and get personal information compromised. That's 2 in 5 people. So I do think now that you may think that this information about passwords is referring to my personal services and accounts. I mean, it's a survey made for users for a personal email or other kind of services. And that it doesn't have any relevance to my job or my professional role and authentication. You may also think that in your organizations, we force users to change password, for example, every 90 days. And we also add policies to make sure that they will be secure and they will not be reused. I think, well, that's true, that we will force users to change them and we will try to make them more complex, but we need still to remember that it's humans that we work with and it's not machines that choose our passwords. It's not machines that share them, reuse them. Users have a habit to create patterns, to remember them, or even write them down. So password is a totally weak security to trust on. Our mission is not to create more complexity for the users or to force the users into certain action. Our mission is more to provide a simple and secure solution for the users. We believe that certificates are the best way to prove your digital identity. So Secmaker has developed a NetID product family. The NetID product family makes it easy for your organization to convert from a username password to strong authentication based on certificates. We could administer digital identities for identities, users, computers, mobile devices, and of course, different services. We know that you will be in need for managed certificates for all type of devices and tokens. So we develop a solution to secure your computers, your mobile devices, your servers, smart cards, or even YubiKeys. And you can even easily provide your TPM security chip with a certificate and use that as a virtual smart card. We know that organizations need to be able to manage identities from many different sources and multiple domains today. So our product supports that. We will also have an internal user catalog that we provide, and we provide this to secure digital identities to your external consultants and non-employees that need access to your systems to help you succeed with your business. NetID supports all common operating systems on the market today, such as Mac, Windows, Linux, and even Chrome. We bring the same support to your mobile devices and tablets. It's an app, it's for iOS, Android, but you can even run it on a Windows, Mac, or Linux machine. So the app will look the same and the functionality will be the same, whatever operating system you choose. This app is available already today on App Store and Google Play. And we could also provide you with physical smart card support to your mobile devices. NetID is not only a mini driver for operating system that enable, for example, functionality to read smart cards and to provide operating system with certificates. It has to be easy and secure for both the end users and the system administrators to implement a new security solution. Some of the features that we deliver to hold that promise for you is a small footprint, single sign-on, adoption of user dialogues, PIN management, and of course, fast log on with the certificate. The system is role-based. That means role-based management. So you can build your roles upon actions and functions. For example, to who or what, when and where should a certificate be issued, renewed, or revoked. And to that role, you can bound that to a security group or an individual inside your organization. It has to be decentralized. We need to bring the management where your organizations are located. We have a self-service part, of course, that lets the user to administrate their PIN and certificates, and also certificate renewal enrollments up to certain level of security. It's a little bit depending on the policies that you have in your organization. Reports, we could deliver daily, weekly, monthly reports that will keep your organization always up to date what's going on with your digital identities and certificates. This is the NetID product family. So on top, the umbrella is the portal. It's the NetID portal. NetID portal is the management system for all internal certificates that you're in need of, regardless of the holder or the service that needs to be provided with a certificate. On the left side, we have NetID Enterprise and NetID Connect for Citrix. These are the softwares that we install to our computers and servers to enable secure authentication logins with certificates. We use NetID Enterprise and NetID Connect for Citrix when we share computers to connect fast and secure to Citrix, to provide single sign-on, and to automate actions when certificates are available, such as automatically start your sign-up applications or predefined desktops. On the right side, we have NetID Access for Citrix. This is the mobile authentication solution that we will talk more about today, that enables strong, secure authentication. NetID Access enables strong authentication throughout your mobile device. So let's do some demos. First of all, I would like to show you a little bit from the NetID portal. The portal where we administrate and also starting the enrollment parts for certificate. And then I will show you more about the NetID Access application, how we could enroll certificates to the application. And when we have provided the application with a digital certificate, we will show you a couple of examples of how you can do simple and secure logins to your Citrix environment with the NetID Access application. And the last part will be to show you how you could use the same solution as a multi-factor authentication with the NetID Access. Okay, so let's run this. NetID Portal is a web-based management system that you can install on-prem in your organization. It will talk to your PKI environment, and it will also talk to the user directory that you choose. So let's run this. We need to log in and authenticate us with a certificate to the product. Eventually, when we're in, we have different functions that we could provide. We could provide users, we can search for tokens, we can build functions and function certificates, we could start issuing and enrolling server certificates for all your internal SSL certificates. A big part of it is the audit logs. We do log everything that happens in the product, and we can also provide you good audit logs on all the certificates. We could build reports for your organization, so you can get weekly, monthly reports. And we also have a self-service area where you can manage your tokens, your pins, and other parts that your manager will make available for you. We are now logged on as an administrator, and we will start search for user to begin and to create an enrollment task for this user in your organization to be able to enroll a mobile certificate to a mobile application. This is the user interface. I can see that I have a personal information. My name is Ronnie Johansson. I belong to the office Stockholm. I don't have a picture uploaded. I can see my email address. And I could also see that I already have 2 valid tokens. I have a smart card based for 5 years, and I also have a mobile certificate based that are valid for 2 years. We would choose now to start enroll a mobile phone as a task, and we need to choose which token template we want to use. If we want to have it distributed by an email or by a one-time password, we choose to have it distributed by an email. We execute the task from our management interface. And it will ask me to add a digital signature to the task. This is an important part of the product because it also ensures that the correct person has signed the approval of the enrollment of the digital identity for the user. And of course, we can follow this up with audit logs and reports. So the task is done. Enroll to a mobile phone, Ronnie Johansson, and the status is in progress. So that's basically it, what we need to do in the portal. What I just showed you here is the manual way to do it by GUI. The product is, of course, supporting APIs. So we could do API calls to our product to start engaging different tasks or creating users or creating tasks for enrollments for mobile devices, servers, computers, or whatever you choose to enroll your certificates for. So I will show you the NetID Access application on an iOS device. So what we will do is that we will enroll the certificate and create the keys on board generation on the iOS device from the task we just created in the management interface. We choose in the management interface to have an email sent to the user to start up the enrollment task. This is of course something that I choose to do in this demo. Depending on the security level within your organization, you can choose to have everything from a one-time password, email, SMS, callback functions, or that actually the user needs to go to the portal and sign the request itself, so we can fulfill the different level or needs of security that you need to provide. So we start the email client on the iOS device. We got an email with a link. So we click the link, it will automatically app switch to our application, NetID Access. It has a primary task already. It will fill that automatically. We need to choose a personal security PIN. So we choose our PIN. And afterwards, it will start creating a token, a certificate, and the keys. And this can be done, of course, separately. So the management or the IT department will create the task in the management suite, and eventually the user could be everywhere as long as it has connection to internet. So now we have enrolled our identity to our mobile device. It says it's ready to be used, and we can also see it belongs to me, Ronnie Johansson. And we can go to the settings pane if we also want to see the certificate or additional information regarding the identity. So what could we do with this now? Now to the good part. So the first I will show you is how you could use an easy secure login method with this app with the iOS receiver on the same device. So what we'll need to do is that we will need to do an app switch to the Authenticate app from NetID, and then app switch back to the receiver, and then the receiver eventually will log on to the storefront server and we will reach our resources. So I will show you. We need to add our username as an identifier. We do an app switch to our app. It will automatically get a notice. We add the PIN. The certificates and everything will be verified. It app switches back. It logs you on. You have your resources. So in this case, I can run a desktop, and that's probably nothing I can recommend to do on a mobile device as a phone, but it shows you that we can make the same authentication method just by the user adding the username and a secure PIN, and we can bring that all the way. A more likely scenario is that you have users need to access your organization, data, or Citrix environment from an external resource to internal through the Citrix Netscaler. So what we've done is that we have a computer. It could be a non-domain joint computer. It could be your organization computer that you brought home, or it could actually be your home computer. This computer, you need a web browser, so you could connect to your unified gateway. And let's see how we could log on. So the first thing we need to do is that we need to add our username. We always start with the username part to identify what's happening. So when we add our username, it will eventually, as step 2, ask us to open the NetID Access app on our mobile device to finalize our authentication. NetID will automatically announce you that it needs a PIN. So we add our security PIN. And we will be logged on. And we can reach our Zen desktop or Zen app resources. A little bit how it works. It could be good to talk about. I won't be too technical today regarding the solution, but I will show you a brief overview how it works so you can get an understanding. So mostly we support all kind of browsers. The most important part for us is that Citrix Receiver can run on it and you can run Citrix. Otherwise, you can choose a browser. So when a user browses your unified gateway, it will ask for a SSL login form from the Netscaler. So the user will be prompted with a login form, and it will add its username that will be returned to the Netscaler and delivered down to Delegated Forms Authentication service on your storefront. At the storefront, we have a NetID Access for Citrix Authentication plugin. So Delegated Forms Authentication will ask our NetID Access to verify the user and the certificate. We will communicate this to our NetID Access server that you could have installed on-prem in your environment. And the NetID Access server will out of bound interact with a mobile device and start verifying the user certificate. And the certificate will actually be fully verified against OCSP or if you have some other revocation lists. And we will also verify the user against Active Directory. And we will then send back a clearance to storefront that the user is authenticated and it will be eventually logged in from the unified gateway. When it comes to the Netscaler, the solution is really easy to start use. In that case, that you can use your normal VPN virtual servers that you use today. If you have an ICA proxy server today, it's the same session policies, and it's the same. Everything is the same. The only thing you need is that you need to change your primary authentication method to a DFA policy. And the DFA policy, you basically point out your storefront and you have a pre-shared key. On the storefront side, we install a NetID Access for Citrix plugin, and we add that into the authentication methods, and we enable that. And then you're up and running. In the NetID Access for Citrix Authentication plugin, we have the most common configuration options that you probably are used to. We can configure trusted domains We can manage password options if we use password, and we can of course manage the specific NetID access for Citrix settings. So for example, we need to add our NetID access server URL. So in this case, I have a showroom URL. It could be your own server, or if there are also companies hosting this server. We can choose a polling time, how often we want to poll our clients. And one of the more important settings are if we want to use passwords. So if we choose to enable the use password option, we will actually have a multi-factor authentication based on certificates. So let me show you how it could look. Same scenario, we have a computer. It could be your computer from the office that you brought home. It could be your home computer, or it could be whatever computer. As long as you have a web browser and you can run Citrix on it. So the main difference in this case is that you will be asked to input username password instead of just username. So the user need to input their username. They need to add their password. And they press log on. As a second step, it will ask to open the NetID access application on your mobile device to verify the certificate. So then we need to do a proper authentication with our certificate. And we're logged on. So the solution could be used as a single factor or as a multi-factor. And this is good because some organizations have something called smart card require set on the users in the Active Directory. That means that the users have no password at all, so they can't use passwords. And eventually, if they need to reach some Citrix resources on the inside, they don't always have access to, for example, a smart card reader or YubiKey reader, or they can't really have this devices around. So then they could easily do a primary authentication with application NetID access on the mobile device fully with certificates and private keys. But we could also, of course, have as an option for many organizations to use it just for external to internal access as a multi-factor authentication. So use your username and password, and you have the secondary as a certificate and app. We could combine this with SAML IDPs. So if organizations today use, for example, SAML log on to their Citrix through the Netscaler gateway to the Citrix storefront, and they want to add additional security to this, we could provide the same kind of secure login to the ADFS, or if you have some other IDP services. So eventually what will happen is if the end user is trying to reach their internal Citrix environment, well, the Netscaler will start talking to the SAML provider, and that one will verify and authenticate the user with the certificate and the application. And then it will release SAML ticketing, and that one will be transformed into storefront, and then eventually a federated authentication service, the FAS service from Citrix, will issue internal certificate to do the interactive logon at the VGA side. It's the same thing if you want to use NetID access for Citrix as primary authentication method totally without passwords. Then you need federated authentication service on the inside in your Citrix environment, because What it's actually do is it creates a virtual smart card. It issues a user certificate that it eventually uses to do the interactive logon to the VGA. You don't need it on the outside, but on the inside. Otherwise, you can use username, password, and certificate. So it's a little bit depending of your organization needs, level of security, policies, and we can adjust the solution for that. So a small summary. Passwords are weak form of security. We think that you should replace them with certificates. The NetID product family will make it much more easy for organizations to convert from username passwords to certificates. NetID enable the use of certificates for login authentication, regardless if you are on a mobile device. So we provide you with strong authentication methods, both for internal and external access. The solution could be used internal or external. It's no different for us. And remember, passwords change rarely and are reused frequently. So thank you everyone for listening to me. And remember one thing, make it easy to log in secure. Thank you.
Right. Thanks very much for this fantastic presentation and the demos, Ronnie. I think the demos came out really well, and you really demonstrated the various ways in which the customers can use Secmaker along with Citrix to provide that strong authentication.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
right. So let's take a few questions from the audience now. So let me just. Right. So will Secmaker work or the NetID suite of products work if the domain where the Citrix farm lives we are logging into is not the same as the domain as PKI cards we possess?
They process smart cards. It was a question around cards they had and which domain they log on to. Was that the question or comment?
Right. So I think the question is if we can set up NetID to work. So let's say the PKI cards, which the end users possess, is in a different domain or out of the network, and if they try to log into the Citrix farm, can we set it up that way?
Yes, the management system. First of all, if you want to use the mobile application, so if you already have smart cards, most likely you want to derive that credential to your mobile device. So what you want to do is that you want to have the management system. It could talk to different domains, of course, or you can build your users inside of the product. And then you want also probably that users needs to go to a page and sign with its smart card because you already are a smart card user, as I understand it. And then you can derive the credential into to the mobile application. And on the Citrix integration part, what we do is that we will confirm, of course, the UPN that are present in the certificate with the domain that your Citrix environment is connected to. So we could easily issue a certificate from a totally different domain, but we will tell that domain that the mobile certificate that we distribute to the app will have a UPN corresponding with the domain that you log on with on the Citrix side.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that was the question.
All right. Even I'm not very clear about uh, that, but I think I received a response from the uh, from the audience that you answered what that I mean you answered correctly, so that's good.
Okay, great, great,
Right.
good.
uh, so there's a question about licensing. Does it work per user or per device?
Yes, it's the mobile access application is licensed per user. So if you have one user with 5 devices, it's still one license.
Okay, that and so that's good to know.
Yeah.
So I'm just scrolling through the questions panel. Uh, so in the demo, I saw uh, you you started with the Net ID portal, and that looked like a web portal. So how do customers install it in their environment? Is it a SaaS product, or do customers set it up in-house?
That's a good question. It's for today, it is an on-prem solution. And why it is that way is because it manages your PKI. And PKI is quite sensitive stuff.
Hmm.
Maybe you have HMs, you protect your keys, you protect your PKI, you have an Active Directory or a Shore Active Directory, whatever. But you need to, but the product has quite high access to your PKI. So that means you install it on-prem. Its dependencies is that you need to have a Microsoft Web Server. It is connected to SQL databases, and then you point out your PKI environment, and it also needs read access to the directory you want to manage your users, or if you use the internal database. And when it's installed internally, you could actually, of course, publish it if you want to publish it to different part of your organization around the world or whatever. But it will, and it could also then be attached to different PKIs around in your organization, and then it will start to manage different parts. This webinar was a little bit short for me to show you more about the portal, but
Hmm.
but if you have more questions and want to know more about the portal, you're free to contact me, and I will send you and guide you into the correct information.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Ronnie. You did also show something about the polling time. Um,
Yeah.
so could you explain a little bit more about it, please?
Well, the default polling time is 250. That means basically that when I hit OK and
Hmm.
start waiting for the access client in the mobile device to react, the server, or actually the plugin, is polling our NetID access server. So it's actually asking our access server, are you done with authentication on the certificate side? Have you checked the user? Is the user authenticated with a certificate? And it's polling and waiting for clearance. And that's the polling setting. So depending on how many users and a little bit about the infrastructure, we choose to put it in as an option to configure that, because some organizations may feel that, okay, you know what, you don't need to ask access server more than, for say, every 500 milliseconds or every 250 or every 300 if it's done, because we know we have a lot of connections, or we know we don't have this, we have latency problems or whatever, then you can easily correct it with a polling period. So it's basically a polling between the Citrix environment and our access server.
Perfect. So one more question is, could you provide some more insight on the industry use cases currently?
Yeah, of course. Um, Most of all, the solutions, briefly, it's about we have organizations that have smart card require users and want to have one management interface for everything. So they want to manage servers, machines, TPMs, YubiKeys, smart cards, and they also then need to have somehow external consultants or employees to be able to reach certain published data through Citrix, for example, Synap apps and stuff. So then it's an easy way to keep everything around certificate and not start including, for example, OTP solutions or SMS solutions into that. And so, but that's more high-end customers that have more or less requirements on certificates and also smart card requirements on the users. Then we have more enterprise companies and organizations that have username passwords internally today, but externally they use, for example, some OTPs, SMS-based solutions. That means that for the end user, when they trying to reach their Citrix from external resource, they need to wait for this SMS or the part, and they need to write down and time limited OTP together with a username parser, so it's a lot more input feeds. So they want to basically have it more easy and also more secured. Because when I say secure, I don't mean it's just secure by the way that it's based on a private public key and a certificate. A big part of the security is also, of course, the management in the portal. I mean, how do we issue this digital identity to the user? That's a big part of the security, and we can build different level, of course, depending on the policy of the organization that is our customer. But that's also a big part of the security. Which stage, how and when could we issue this identity to the user? Who is signing it? Who's approving it? How will the user enroll it? Could it be done as I did in the demo, just with an email or with an SMS, or do they actually need to go to the portal themselves, sign something before they could start enrolling? So we can build this different policy sets around the enrollment scenario, because eventually it's a derived credential from your on-prem ID.
Right, that's perfect, Ronnie, and the password less authentication which you demoed really helps, and the best part is the out of band, right? So even if the user is entering the username, the authentication happens on your smartphone. So,
Yes.
that's something which is really helpful. You're not entering the password anywhere, and not
Exactly.
even on your mobile device. So
No,
that's
exactly.
very secure. And if as you did mention during the webinar, if customers choose to use the multi-factor authentication, that's also available.
Yeah, that's an option.
All right. Mm-hmm. So. So I think we have one last question. So currently it seems like NetID is has to be installed on-prem. Do you have anything in your roadmap to provide it as a cloud service? Uh,
Uh, NetID itself doesn't need to be on-prem. The management part needs to be on-prem.
right.
Day because of the PKI. And yes, there are plans to eventually provide it as a SaaS.
Perfect. And is there
That's the short answer. I don't want to go too deep into that right now. It's too early stage to
all right,
mention more. Yeah.
all right. So So one last question. Is there any expiration date for the user or the device? I think is there so once the user enrolls to the NetID app on their devices, is there any expiration date that they have to do a re-enrollment every time, or
Yes, that's totally configurable because what we do is enroll a certificate. So what we do in the management portal when we set it up, we set up these different token templates.
Mhm.
So in this typical scenario in this demo, I choose to enroll via an email link a 2 years valid certificate for the mobile device. But you can choose to have a template that says that temporary access for this person for 1 day, or for 2 days, or for 1 year, or for 2 years, or 5 years. But 5 years on a mobile device, I don't know how often you change your mobile devices, but I do have them around 1.5, 2 years
Mhm.
maximum. Uh, so it's but yes, you can. It's totally up to you to choose the validity time for the certificates. So everything is based on traditional PKI. So we do not put any. We don't put our own layers on top of that. We just use the traditional PKI and we distribute it in an app, and we do it a little bit more intelligent with the integration to Citrix. So
Sounds great, Ronnie.
yeah,
Mhm.
and meanwhile, if I have 1 year validity time certificate and I
Mhm.
lose my device, or if I quit my job or whatever, then of course the first thing you do is to disable the account. Then I can't reach your environment. And the second part is that you go to the management portal and you could easily revoke this certificate, so it will be so it won't be active anymore. And also, if I'm a user, you can allow me to go to my self-service part and revoke my own token. So if I, for example, lost my phone, I can directly start up my computer. I can go to the self-service part and can revoke it. So that's also one of the process.
Right, that's very helpful, Ronnie. Thank you so much. And I see some of the attendees asking if the webinar slides and the recording would be shared. Uh, to answer the question, yes, we will share the recording with all the attendees within a day or two to your registered email addresses. So, Ronnie, it was a pleasure speaking to you. A fantastic presentation, fantastic product. And any final thoughts?
No, just thank you for this opportunity to talk to you all, and I hope you enjoyed it.
It was very helpful, Ronnie. Thank you so much. And I also want to take a moment to thank everyone who could make it to the webinar today. And this shall conclude our broadcast for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.